Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 412. We're heading out to the Dakotas today and meeting up with Reid Vander Veen. Now, Reid's on the pro staff for Rack's Big Game Supplements. And Chris Edwards and the crew have been around for a number of years, and they put out a great product. He's going to talk a little bit about the product, but more so he's going to talk about why his family takes 160 to 180 class bucks in the Dakotas every single year. Like he says, South Dakota might be the best kept secret in the whitetail world. Well, he's going to share just how they set up, where they hunt, funnels and pinch points, and how they use Rack's Big Game Supplement to help grow big horns. Having said all that, sit back, relax, and enjoy Reid Vander Veen from Rack's Big Game Supplements. This is Bruce Hutchin, your host at Whitetail Rendezvous, and I am the executive producer. And hey, we're going to catch up with an old friend back in August of 2016. Reid Vander Veen was on the show, and since that time, a lot of things have happened in this man's life, and so he's going to share some of those things on the show today. And Reid, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bruce. Excited to be back and looking forward to catching up.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Rack's Big Game Supplements over there with Chris Edwards. We're going to talk about Wilderness Athlete. Both Reid and I utilize that product. And we're going to talk about some things that have been going on. Over 200 articles Reid has written for Wide Open Spaces. And one thing, and I'm just going to start off with this, is you wrote in January 5 trends that are going to impact the 2017 season. So let's just jump right into it and talk about what you see, your thoughts, and how it's going to affect us hunters.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so as you mentioned, just a little background, since we last talked, I've become a contributing writer for the crew over at Wide Open Spaces, which is just an awesome creative outlet for me. I love doing that, and recently published article number 200. We're on, I think, 212 now, so we're pretty busy with that. But yeah, back in January, I wrote kind of an interesting article, nothing earth-shattering, but really just made some predictions for this coming fall. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues to play out. Really 5 trends is what it covered, and it was everything from, the number of first-time hunters getting involved, women hunters, having the fastest growing demographic in the hunting industry is women. Shifting access to land. I talked about different technology and the kind of some of the cool things that are happening because of technology and hunting applications, phone apps and stuff like that. And also some of the downside to those apps and what effect that's having downstream. And then, even just disease, CWD and EHD and some of those things, the impact that's all having. So made some interesting predictions, and we'll see once how many of those hold true.
Well, that's going to be interesting. And are you going to write a follow-up piece then?
I should. Yeah, I really should.
Well, yeah.
If it works out, I'll probably continue to do kind of that year look ahead and see once how accurate we can be with that. But.
So, Wilderness Athlete and putting good stuff into you. You had a really great comment or observation, if you will, at the beginning of the show. You're working with Chris Edwards over at Rack's Big Game Supplements, trying to get the best minerals, trying to get the best, growth, supplements into your deer herd. But then how did that go? You went to the grocery store and said, "What's up with this?"
Yeah. So it was really just kind of an odd premonition or epiphany, I guess, that I came to. It was I've been working with Chris and Rack's for, I don't know, a handful of years now. And, just really became a big advocate for that. I wanted to, I did a bunch of research and kind of looked into, the supplements that I'm putting into my deer herd's body, because you go to the outfitter stores, the big box stores, and there's 9,000 different options, and they're all bright colored packages, and they all got this little thing or that, that famous person talking about it. It's like, I don't know what I'm getting into here. So I did a bunch of research and ended up going with racks just because, I'm biased, like I said, but hands down, I think it's the best supplement, whole health supplement that you can put into your deer herd. It's not growth hormones. It's not, pumping them full of protein. It's just got the right balance, the right mix of all the macronutrients and micronutrients for just full herd health. So you're getting better, healthier does, which are producing healthier fawns, which are leading to healthier bucks. And it's just really kind of a whole health approach. And then, like you said, I'm doing this for deer for a couple of years, and when I'm going to do my workouts or just my normal health regimen, I realize that I'm taking junk supplements for myself. Department store, the cheapest stuff you can find. And it's like, all right, I've got some conflicting priorities here. I need to get a few things in line, and there again, did a little bit of research and ended up connecting with the crew over at Wilderness Athlete. And actually, oddly enough, to connect all those things, working on a piece, doing a little bit of a research piece or an experiment right now with Wilderness Athlete supplements for wide open spaces. So checking out some of their pre-workout and post-workout stuff. So that's kind of fun, just having a good time with that. But kind of an odd deal, it's like I'm putting the best stuff into my deer herd and taking junk stuff myself. So I had to reorganize that a little bit.
So, folks, here's the takeaway. Whether you're an older person or more mature person than I am, or somebody, young and buff and everything, we're like Reid, we become what we eat. And if you're, drink a lot of beer, nothing wrong with having a beer, but you better do your workouts.
That's right.
Pay the price to drink a beer. That's kind of what I tell people. I said, man, you're working so hard. I said, yeah, I want to have a couple of beers tonight.
That's exactly right.
But
That's exactly right.
And the sugars and everything. So, it's up to us really to get, in shape. As Jeremy Kerber says from Fit to Hunt, it's your choice. If you want to go out there and mix it up and hunt hard, multiple states as I do, I have to be in shape or I'll fold. I won't be able to get done what I want to get done. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly right. I have the same approach. I probably I take advantage of the fact that it's the off season during the off season, and I don't work out as hard and I don't take things quite as seriously as far as my workouts go. But I started here a couple weeks back. I reached out to Jordan Miller at Run to Gun Hunting Fitness TV and connected with him and got a workout program from him because I'm going. I'm drew a Colorado elk tag and I'm at a substantially lower elevation here in South Dakota
Yes,
than I'm going to be. So I've got a 12-week program that I'm going really hard to the hoop with and taking everything as seriously as I can, from my nutrition to my workouts, and just to kind of really maximize your odds because I'm the type that I'm gonna keel over on the treadmill before I get off. If there's somebody next to me doing, I want to be the hardest working hunter in the woods. I really do. I want to get up earlier. I want to go in farther to the woods. I want to find the deer, the elk where nobody's touched, and you just can't do that if you're not taking things seriously, getting ready for that, and preparing for the elements. So you hit the nail on the head, Bruce.
Yeah, and what unit are you going to hunt for archery?
I think it's 405 and 441 or 451 northwest Colorado, up by Steamboat. Yeah,
Steamboat, between Steamboat, Oak Creek.
yeah, way up there by the Wyoming border is where we'll be. Yeah,
Yeah, and the Bears Ears, maybe. That's east of Steamboat.
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. You'll have fun. You're going to be sucking air at 11, 12,000 feet.
We will. Yep, went out there a couple of years back to the same area. We're going to go hit that again, and I took it pretty serious back then. Probably not as seriously as I should have. And you get like every hunt, right? You get some lessons learned, and you hope you don't make the same mistakes and do a little more prep for next time.
Yeah, because it hurts. I mean, it really does.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking. You're sitting on a ridge, and you worked hard in the dark. You get there, and they up in there. You're looking at glass in a basin. You know where they're going to go in the stringers of timber, and physically, you just can't climb the last 2,000 feet. You
Yeah.
just can't do it. And
Right.
I've seen people go, oh well, and I'm going, you spent all this time and everything. You
Right.
got to do it.
Right.
You got to do
Well,
it
I
now,
mean,
though. You got to do it
right.
now. The hunt
Absolutely.
is right now. And I try to tell people that all the time. And they say, well, how do you do it? I said, I start to hunt weeks, months before my hunt because that's my hunt. I'm hunting every time I sweat, every time I hit the gym, every time I take another step of my walk. I am hunting because I know every step I take, I'm that closer to be boots on the ground and chasing elk.
Right. Yeah. Whether it's the physical preparation or the mental preparation, I mean, you can't you can't really describe, especially for guys like me that I've gone a couple times now, but there's nothing like hearing that first bugle and being at 8,000, 9,000 feet, and you're just ready, to tear off. It's like you just can't. I mean, physically, mentally, if you haven't taken the time and the steps to prepare and gotten yourself into a position that you're actually capable of executing, you're gonna kill you. You might not kill yourself, but you're gonna be hurting. You're gonna be sitting in camp. You're gonna be sore. You're gonna be not capable of making that shot after a 2,000 foot climb and whatever temperature you're at. You just
So
gotta you
anyway,
gotta prep.
there's a shout out, Kevin, Jesse Paulson. Thanks so much, guys. And you got two guys on your team.
There you go. You bet.
So, we were talking about, I'm trying to think, the supplements you talked a little about, wilderness athlete we just talked about. What about the 2016 season? You said it was a hard season. Why so?
Yeah, 2016 was really interesting for me. I'd come off a couple years where, I'd taken some really nice, really high quality whitetail deer. Um, there's just a lot of inches of bone on the ground and hanging on my wall now after the last few years. Been really successful and doing things like working with racks and managing your deer herd. So anyway, 2016 season comes around and I kind of have high expectations and hunting has this interesting way of humbling folks. So I didn't get any bone. Well, I did take a doe finally late in the year, but I didn't get any. I didn't shoot a buck in the 2016 season, which is really hard. You can say that you're spoiled because you got your private land that you can go hunt and some of that, and that's probably true. But to go from 3-4 years of really high quality deer to not seeing anything, putting in a bunch of time, did all the prep work, did all the scouting, running trail cams and stuff like that, but just never had a lot of opportunity at deer, but they weren't the right ones. Um, and then oddly enough, here's a crazy story for you, Bruce. So I live in the southeast part of South Dakota, kind of probably 45 minutes from Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska, right there in the kind of the corner of the state. And last winter, probably last December, I'm moving snow out of my farm and I see probably 4 or 5 game fish and parks trucks, South Dakota game fish and parks trucks at the end of my section, probably 300 yards away. And I'm thinking, what in the world are these guys all doing out here? So I go grab my binoculars and I'm looking around. One of the guys comes up and he says, I bet you're wondering what we're looking at. It's like, yeah, is there poachers going on or what's going on? It's like, there's a bull moose over there. I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
no way. No way. Dead serious. Probably 100 yards from the edge of my property. There's a big old bull moose running, and they were trying to keep him off the highway, is what all these guys were doing. So this guy runs right through our property. And uh, to make matters more interesting, after he had gone to the south a little ways, he's probably a mile down. I watched him quite a ways, got a bunch of cool pictures. Um, I'm like, well, I'm going to go drive. I lost sight of him. I'm going to go drive and see if I can find him. So I get in my truck and I got a tiny little spread of trees, a grove of trees that you probably call maybe an acre, right? Maybe an acre, probably 3/4 of an acre. It's thick timber, but it's just a tiny grove, a wind shelter belt sort of deal. And I drive past the edge of this, and not 5 yards into the edge of my grove, I see a 165-inch or better deer, a buck,
Oh
just laying
no.
there. And I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm going to go look for this moose, and I just
oh
happen
my
to
goodness.
glance in the trees, and there's this gorgeous buck just laying there bedded down at the edge of my trees. I'm like, you can't be serious. No trail camera pictures of this thing. none of my neighbors are talking about a big deer like that. I have no idea. This guy's probably run some doe from, who knows how far away, and he's taking a break on my spot. So I try and figure out a way to get in on this thing. I backed up, stopped chasing the moose, came back to the yard, grabbed my bow, and um, I was going to try and creep in on him, do a kind of a spot and stalk, I guess, but just the way it was set up, I couldn't get in there. And then, so I went and sat in a tree stand on the other end of the property. And I told my wife, who was dealing with our newborn son, just had a newborn son, probably 2 weeks old. And I'd say, hey, can you go sit in the truck and try and push this thing towards me? So she goes and sits out there on the road, packs our newborn son into the cold truck, goes and sits out there. And I bet she's sitting there for 20 minutes. And she calls me finally. And she's like, the buck's just standing here staring at me. He's like, you can shoot him from the truck. It's just sitting here. So he didn't even move. And so I didn't know what to do. Finally, after about an hour of this, no joke, an hour of this, I got down on the tree stand and started working him back. And of course, worst decision you ever make, never leave the stand in a situation like that. The timber was too thick, and he ended up finally coming down. I should have waited another 15 minutes. He'd have walked right past me. I got some great shooting lanes cut through those trees, and just never ended up getting a shot. Gorgeous buck, would have been the first buck I've ever taken off my own property, my little spread there. It would just been such a cool story. And, you just shake your head at how stupid you can be sometimes with decisions like that. So
that's hunting. That's why we do this. So you have the story and you learn the hard lesson. That's all. You go,
that's exactly right.
I'm going to hang it out till it gets dark, or he goes the other way. Just,
yeah.
I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah. That's what hunting has kind of become for me is, especially it's always been that, I guess, I'm a self-taught hunter. I didn't grow up in a family of hunters, so I didn't get into it, until my late teen years, early in my college years when I had buddies that were doing it. So, almost every lesson I've ever learned has been, self-taught. I've got some great mentors and hunting partners now that are awesome to go out with, but it's stuff like that it's just add it to the list, man, of dumb decisions you made or hunting, lessons you've learned. But you can smile about it now because it's been long enough ago. But at the time, it was pretty tough to swallow that pill for sure.
Now, have you seen the deer since?
No, only one time I've ever seen him. And I talked to a couple neighbors and they have no idea, unless they're not telling me, but no clue, no story whatsoever. Just I had to have been passing through.
Huh.
I do have some deer that regularly visit the trees. There's a couple. I think there's 2 doe and a fawn right now that are hitting that spot pretty good, but no bucks or anything like that. So it's a weird deal. But
yeah,
that was the highlight and the low light probably of my 2016 season, was seeing that guy on my own land and watching him run away.
Well, let's talk about the disease in the warm up. You said I asked, you guys still have over the counter archery tag, and said, well, for the first time in a long time, no. So let's let people know about what's happening in South Dakota regarding deer tags.
Yeah. So, like many states here in the Midwest, we're kind of struggling to fight off the different diseases, EHD and CWD, some of those chronic wasting disease and episodic hemorrhage disease, however you say that. But all the state agencies are working really hard to manage the deer herd, and we appreciate that as hunters and conservationists, we really do. But it does get tough once in a while when they cut numbers back for tags on us. So I went literally earlier this week to apply for my tags for this fall. They just became available here in South Dakota, and the primary county, the primary unit that I typically archery hunt in, where we manage our herd really well. I can't even get an over-the-counter tag anymore. 4 years ago, I could get 2 doe tags and a buck tag over the counter, and now I can't even get an antlerless tag for that area. So I'll have a backup spot or 2 that I'll go try and fill a tag on this fall. But it's really tough. We manage that property pretty close and pretty tight. So our numbers, you probably wouldn't notice. You probably wouldn't notice a drop off in population or herd health or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that everybody else around you is going to have the same philosophy and the same approach. But it's a tough year. It was a for a while last year. People thought 2016 is going to be okay. Numbers looked like when they did the early in the year kind of population checks. Uh, People were kind of optimistic, right? It looks like it's going to be pretty good, and then mid to late summer hits, and a couple EHD cases are floating around, and man, that stuff just spreads like wildfire, especially when it gets hot and all the animals are using the same water sources. So the population here in South Dakota is down. I think the population is down in a couple other states around the area, and it's a roller coaster because I think 2 years ago the population was growing faster than they expected, and now it's not growing. Now it's not growing near at the rates that they were thinking. So it's an interesting deal. What the population and disease, the impact and the effect that those things can have on hunting for us as hunters. One of the interesting things, this is actually in that same article, the 5 trends that we referenced earlier, is how to combat that. There's these different hunting apps that you can get, like that show where the most tags are available, or that can kind of crunch the numbers on last year's draw statistics and tell you, hey, here's a great spot to apply. So that's making it even more challenging, I think, for the state agencies to kind of manage, how many tags they make available based on, application rates and numbers from last year, when suddenly you've got an app that's, telling people you got to apply for this unit, and suddenly they got 300% more applications this year, and applications are down in this area. So I think that's going to be an interesting trend to watch too, is what effect technology has in some of these apps and kind of draw statistics sort of applications, what effect that has, and how it'll be interesting to see how states react to that, and the agencies to see when and where and how they make certain tags available. It's going to be a wild ride. I think if I had to make a prediction, it's going to be an interesting one here for the next few years until we kind of catch up and everything levels out and people figure out, all right, this is how technology. We don't have a choice. I mean, it's going to have an impact. It's going to make a play in the industry. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, it really is. And, you touched on many different segments of the outdoor industry, of the hunting industry. And folks, the thing I would add just to that, you've got to be you've got to be part of it. Don't sit and wait and say, oh, this happened, that happened. We had a talk at Professional Outdoor Media Association that, you need to have a seat at the table. You need to have your voice heard. And it's not just in the bar or at school or at work, but really with the game and fish divisions in your state. And it's not that hard. If you go at it correctly, it's not that hard to have your voice heard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's some simple ways even that you can plug in, just connecting or providing your email address to your state wildlife, department, natural resources, game fish and parks, whatever it is in your state. Just plug in and be like, hey, include me on the surveys, or give a local, naturalist or conservationist a call and just talk and be like, hey, if you're ever looking for an opinion, let me know, because they're like anything else. They're going to take as much input as they can, and hopefully make a smart, well-informed decision that represents the best interest of the public. Like you said, if you're not involved, you'd have no reason to complain later if you're not trying to help. So that's kind of my philosophy towards it.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you changed up your hunting technique over the last few years. What's changed for Reid?
Yeah, what's changed for me? I think, employing the use of those lessons learned, like I talked about, it's just a little bit slower. It's a little bit more methodical. Um, I'm probably a little bit more patient than I was in my younger days. I like to think anyway. So making sure that I'm putting in the time and energy to do it right, go to the right spots at the right time. I'm not going to overuse a stand just because I like the area if the wind isn't right. I'm not going to hunt, one deer super hard and burn him out and push him out of an area. Just a little bit more diligent, a little bit more patient about stuff. scent control is obviously a big deal. I mean, that's not news to anybody, but I've taken some different approaches to doing, how I've done scent control in the past, using less spray or less, other devices, and going and just covering myself in mud or, random stuff like that. That more a scent camouflage sort of approach versus a scent masking, or scent elimination stuff. That's certainly one way. I do a lot less gun hunting. It used to. I grew up in Iowa, so when I was learning hunting, it was shotguns, it was slugs, and now, my favorite tools of the trade are certainly my Matthews bow. Um, I love shooting that thing. It's rehab. I mean, it's relaxation. It's just the best thing you can do is firing a few arrows at the end of the day. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's probably a little bit slower pace, um, but still working hard. Like I said, I always want to be the hardest working person in there. If there's an odd that somebody's going to get something, I want to have the lion's share of those odds. So
Works for me. When
yeah,
you look at supplements and you look at technology changes, where does all that end? It, it seems to me it's ramping up, and there's a lot of farmers with food plots. A lot of guys are food plots are turning into farmers, and then you get the technology. I shoot a crossbow because of my shoulder and everything, and I just wonder where technology's going to the point that we're more techno heads, if you will, than hunters.
sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question, and I think the answer is probably different for everybody. You talked about situations and circumstances with your shoulder earlier that you're not going to be able to pull back a 70-pound bow. So there's good reason for there's a great argument for technology there when a guy wants to be involved and be in the outdoors and still enjoy his favorite pastime of hunting. But you got other people on the other end of that are gonna, like everything else, they're gonna take advantage, or they're gonna kind of press the limits and see what they can get away with without having good reason. Um, I think hunting is an area where there's a lot of traditionalists, a lot of good old boys that we want to be the ones that camp at night and wake up in freezing cold temperatures and then have to shed layers later in the day because we're sweating. We want to hike 8 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles into the mountains and go hard after these things because we want that real traditional experience. I picked up a recurve, a longbow here last year just because it's like I like technology. I love shooting that bow, that my compound bow, my Matthews bow, like I said. But there's something that's just super cool about the old technology. I mean, one of the oldest weapons on the face of the planet that's still used today is a bow and arrow. I mean, it's just kind of fascinating. So I think there's a lot of guys that just love the purity and the the simplicity that is real, honest, true hunting. And there's going to be others that just more technology the better, and they're pushing the limits and they're changing things. And I think everybody's gonna kind of just have to make that decision up for themselves. I don't know where it's going to end. In a long time from now, 5, 10 years from now, it's going to be interesting to see the effect that it has on the hunting landscape and the industry. But I mean, who'd have thought 10 years ago that we were using ozone machines, right, to eliminate? I mean, that's crazy high tech stuff. Some of these apps
Yeah.
that you're using, I mean, moon phase, these are things that used to be like the guys that really studied it. Farming is the same way, right? It used to be the guys that really dug in and knew how to do it. They could do better than the other guys. Well, now you got everybody and their dog that has a tractor that drives itself and plants itself, and you get the apps that tell you exactly what fertilizer to put and at what rate. So it's one of those things. How traditional do you want to be? There's a line that everybody's going to kind of have to choose and draw for themselves. I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer. I don't think. I think as hunters, we're going to start some internal battles with each other if we start to butt heads over this stuff. I think it's just up to everybody to kind of make that call, make that decision for themselves.
Yeah, just an interesting observation because, you know, I don't even want to tell you what I bought my first Proline XT out of Michigan. It was Proline bows, and I killed my first bear with that. Killed my
Yeah.
first elk with that. But I'm just thinking, I had a Jennings before that for whitetails. That's why I killed my first whitetail um, with. But I mean, you look at that standard equipment. We still have my original first bow, and the grandkids have got it now, and
Nice.
they're shooting in their backyard. And yeah,
That's great.
it kills things. But you think about that, and just how much is enough? And I guess that'd be a nice article to write at Wide Open Spaces. You know, when do we lose the hunt and get into the technology?
Yeah.
I'm killing this to death, but it's just something you think about. You
Yeah,
know,
it is. It's crazy. I mean, you think about modern bows, right? I mean, it's like a contest for all the bow manufacturers. Who can shoot the fastest, right? You got bows that are coming out of the box and their IBO is 350 plus. And that's insane. If you do the math on that, that's like over 300 miles an hour. 200, it's well over 200 miles an hour. I haven't done it in a while, but I mean, that's insane. You're talking, like we said, one of the oldest known weapons on the face of the planet in all of history. And now we're talking this thing can shoot lights out, 80, 100 yards. Guys are putting accurate shots out there, knocking things out at 300 plus feet per second. It's just wild.
yeah,
And
it is.
there's good reason for that, right? I mean, if you can make a more accurate shot, a quicker shot, cleaner shot, and do less, harm to that animal before it passes, there's a good argument for that, for some of those advancements. It's just kind of how it's used and where you're going to draw that line.
Yeah, I like a caliber bows because I'm shooting a recurve that goes 380 feet per second.
Right.
Because the power stroke's like 8 inches long.
Yeah.
I mean, it just that's an 80 yard. That's an 80 yard bow. But having said that, there's guys set up, knowing what they're doing, they're practicing. They'll put ply plates out there at 100 yards and put all the arrows in them at 100
Right.
yards.
Yep.
You know,
Pretty wild.
yeah. Say, do you wear kuyu? Is that your camo of taste, or is that just a hat?
Yeah, no, I like, I'm a big fan of Kuyu. I like their stuff a lot. I got a handful of these hats. It's kind of my go-to hat too.
Yeah,
But, no, I'm there again. There's a lot of really cool technology. I actually just wrote an article for Wide Open Spaces on whether or not high-end hunting equipment is worth the price. Um, I made kind of an argument for and against that, so that I encourage folks to go find that. It's kind of an interesting one too. I do enjoy Kuyu. I think, what I wrapped up that article with was, the older I get, the more I realize that you get what you pay for. That said, uh, I'm a pretty average guy, and I can't afford to outfit my whole self. And every hunting outfit or spread that I got can't be, some of these $700 jackets and $400 pants. I mean, I just can't do that. So it's all about picking and choosing, what equipment you think is most important. And I think paying the right price for that stuff is certainly worth it. But there is no shortage of options when it comes to camo prints and patterns and manufacturers that say they got the latest and greatest technology. And um, yeah, I'm a fan of Kuyu though. I really do like Kuyu and the stuff that those guys got going on.
well, that's good, folks. We touched a lot of topics, and I'll have Reid on again. And Reid, this has just been fun to catch up and see what the heck you're
Yes.
doing. I'm going to read
Yep.
some more at Wide Open Spaces and tell people how to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Reid Vander Veen. Otherwise, the writer pages is probably the biggest thing, where I'm sharing most of my content that's hunting and outdoor related. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just go search for Tree Stand Diaries. That's the name of the page, Tree Stand Diaries, and you can find a lot of really cool content there. Um, the idea with those pages is just to kind of be a cool outlet for folks, that want to read some of my stuff. It's not all my stuff. I share a lot of really good content on that. So I encourage folks to reach out that way, and you can message me. I'll try and respond as quickly as I can. Um, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram are all good ways.
Great. And with that, it's just been great to head up to South Dakota and catch up. And hopefully we don't wait too long before we do it again. But, man, you've got it going on, and I'm happy for you. And good luck in Colorado.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. We'll touch base for sure, and I'll hopefully have some pictures to share with you.
I certainly want to see the picture. Hey, on the next episode, we're staying right here in Colorado. I've got a couple of friends, Casey and Hope Hutchison, and they're going to talk about hunting in Colorado, but also hunting out in Kansas. Hope's from Kansas, and they go back there every fall and chase whitetails in the Kansas prairie. So they got some great tips, techniques, and strategies that you're going to find very interesting. Stay tuned. It's going to be a fun show.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.